You are listening to the Hiking Radio Network, where we talk the walk with shows by hikers, about hikers, for everybody.
Mighty Blue on the Appalachian Trail, the ultimate midlife crisis. Join Steve and his guests every week as he staggers from Georgia to Maine.
So, it's the Thursday before Christmas, and as we always do on a Thursday, we have another episode of Mighty Blue on the Appalachian Trail, the ultimate midlife crisis. I am Mighty Blue, and before I forget, I want to wish you all, whatever your religious or even political beliefs, a happy festive period and a wonderful new year. Once again, we've got another recent Appalachian Trail completer. Our guest is Carl Stranagan, and I have to say, I spoke with a very reflective Carl a few weeks ago. It was clear to me that the trail and everything that comes with an Appalachian Trail completion was still permeating Carl's consciousness. I hope he doesn't take offence at this, but you can almost hear Carl's brain ticking over as he reflects upon what has just happened to him. It isn't the same with everyone, but it was very noticeable to me that this was what was going on with him when we spoke. You know, I never get bored with discovering new things, and our guests continually surprise me, delight me, and even amaze me from time to time. Such is the power of a long-distance hike. Also today, searching for her own Appalachian dream next year is Joanne Birditt. Joanne is an experienced hiker, so already has her own trail name. She's Foxbait. How she earned that terrific name, I will let Joanne herself explain after Carl. Then, to round off the show, Winton Porter, in his Passin Thru, eventually solves the riddle of the Samsonite Twins and sends them on their way. And while I remember, this terrific book is getting towards the end, and I think we have 3 or 4 chapters to go. I've got a couple of possible books to read next, but wanted to open it up to you, the listeners. What would you like me to read next year? Email me at steve@hikingradionetwork.com and I'll find out if I can get permission to read your choice on the show. But now, another successful thru-hiker from 2021. This is Carl Stranagan, or Huck Finn. So today's guest is Carl Stranagan, or Huck Finn. Hey Carl, how are you?
I'm good. How are you? Thanks for asking.
I'm pretty good. And I think I first spotted you, because I think I reached out to you some time ago. It was one of those Katahdin signed pictures. And I invited you to come on the show to share your story. And like me, you had no backpacking experience when you first hit Springer.
Yeah.
What made you want to take on something like this?
Well, I really wanted to do something that would take me outside of my comfort zone, something bigger than I'd ever done before, something that, I would normally think of as being pretty much impossible. And so I found people on YouTube that were doing it, and that gave me inspiration and to want to do that.
But where did the idea come from to actually hike the AT? Because it's not on everybody's radar, is it?
No. Well, I've always loved nature. I love mountains. I grew up in the mountains in upstate New York. So being in Florida for all this time now, I was really starting to miss the mountains. So I think this is where it came from, just missing the mountains and wanting to get back out and connect with nature again. Because
you were you were living down in Florida at the time?
Yeah, yep. I've been in Florida since 2003.
Okay. Well, I've been here since 2008, funnily enough.
Yeah.
So, because you're in your mid-30s, aren't you?
Yeah.
Which is an unusual demographic for the trail. So,
yeah.
What was happening in your life that allowed you to just throw everything in?
Yeah. Well, kind of didn't think about it until the pandemic happened. When that all started, and all the businesses had to close down. That was when I first realized, okay, now I might actually have the time, because before it was always an excuse of, I can't really afford to take 6 months off or whatever. Sure. And then one day that excuse was just taken away. I had plenty of time, so.
And many of us, have this thing where it's a perfect time to go, and you either choose to go or not go, don't you? Mm-hmm. And you made that decision to go through.
Yeah.
I
was pretty passionate about it for a while, really wanting to do it, yeah. Dreaming. It was a dream.
Oh, right. From what sort of age then?
I would say for about five 5 to 6 years before I hiked, that was when I started watching people and started dreaming of doing it myself. And even though I would see all these people do it, I still thought it seemed impossible for me to do.
Why is that? Interesting.
One, having no experience, not having been much of an athlete ever in my life before, and but I knew I loved nature and I wanted to get out there and connect. So I hoped that my body would just get used to it as I went, which it did.
Isn't it funny how that happens? Eh?
Yeah. As long as you start off easy and you don't injure your body right off the bat.
Would that be the first thing you tell? It's certainly the first thing I tell people: do not rush at the start.
Yeah.
So would that be your advice as well?
Yes, definitely my advice. And people had tried to give me that advice before, but I didn't. I mean, I kind of listened, but then I had to get my first, minor sprain injury for my body to tell me that, all right, it's time to slow down. Got to start off easy.
Right, and you started fairly early, didn't you?
Yes, February 27th.
So how did you decide that was a good time for you?
Well, I sort of knew that the bubble was a little bit after that, and I wanted to try to get ahead of the bubble, but I think that was just an excuse because I really wanted to start as soon as possible, and that just, it was the winter, and I was like, I think that's probably the soonest I can start. I wanted to start as soon as possible.
But isn't it cold in those mountains in February?
Yeah. I was lucky though, because a lot of other people around that time of year are dealing with blizzards and walking through snow, and we had unseasonably decent weather, and there was almost no snow, and we did have a few nights where our water froze, but and definitely some really cold times, but we didn't. At least we didn't have to drudge through the deep snow.
And I noticed looking at your videos this morning that you were Huck Finn pretty early on. How'd you get that?
Yeah, well, I was telling people about some other adventures I had planned. And one of the adventures I had planned that I really wanted to do for a long time was to, kind of like Tom and Huck did in the book about the Tom Sawyer book. I wanted to plan an adventure where I float down a river on some sort of vessel, whether it's a kayak or a canoe or something like that, or even a raft, and just float down an entire river and stop in a different spot or town each night and camp, and so that's how I got that name.
So you became Huck Finn. You started telling people your dreams when you were in a shelter at night, and they gave you that name straight away.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
So how did you said you haven't been an athlete. How did you prepare for the physicality?
I did a little bit of preparation. I started getting interested in being healthy and being somewhat fit, a couple of years leading up to this. So I was doing a little bit of, walking, jogging, a little bit of weight training, weightlifting, trying to get myself healthier. But I didn't do a whole lot of training.
Well, I've always thought that, frankly, stepping on however much preparation you do, you step on the mountain at Springer and you suddenly realize that could not have been enough preparation.
Exactly. Yeah.
And it just does it for you. So what were those early miles like for you then?
Yeah, they were very difficult, very, very difficult. I think I had to start out with low miles, between 6 to 10 miles a day in the beginning, and but the first few days and the first couple of weeks were absolutely the hardest. I think on the third day, I pretty much decided I was gonna quit after a really hard 15-mile day, which I didn't intend on doing 15 miles. Was this
the one up and over Blood Mountain?
Yes, exactly. Up and over Blood Mountain.
That this morning. Yeah.
So I had already went it was 8 or 9 miles, and then I couldn't find a good spot to camp, so I just kept pushing.
It was on day 3, wasn't it?
Yeah. Day 3 or 4, and I think it was day 3, and I couldn't find a good place to camp, so I just kept pushing, and I was like, eventually I'll get somewhere, and then it got dark. And then I was already starting to go up over Blood Mountain. So once it got dark, I knew I had to finish continuing over the other side because it was too dangerous up on top of Blood Mountain. It was very cold and I just didn't feel comfortable. So I just kept pushing and pushing. And my headlamp, unfortunately, almost died. Luckily,
on day 3?
Yeah, yeah. That was when I only had one rechargeable headlamp. I didn't have a backup one. So after that, I got a backup headlamp. But yeah, I think I made it over the other side and into what's that first gap?
Neil Gap.
Yeah, Neil's Gap. Mountain crossings. I made it there, and like in the middle of the night, and my girlfriend met up with me, and she took me to a hotel. Luckily, after a night's sleep, I decided not to quit. But I seriously.
She must have been impressed with you. Come and get me, and then you sent her home.
Yeah, she drove all the way from Florida.
Oh my gosh!
But
so what was it? Was it because you just you thought it was just beyond you, or what?
Well, yeah, I kind of injured my ankle too going over Blood Mountain, so I was in a lot of pain. My back was excruciating because I started with a heavy pack, which I never really ended up getting it much lighter, but I was around 40 pounds at my heaviest.
Right.
Yeah, so my back was excruciating. Your body's just not used to carrying that kind of weight and going over mountains.
Yeah. So, but how had you prepared then in terms of gear? What had informed you to be able to make sure you had the right gear?
Yeah, I watched a lot of YouTube videos about the pluses and minuses of different types of gear. So I tried to do as much research as I could about that ahead of time. Uh-huh. So I had some decent set of gear before I started. So
what did you have? What was your gear?
I had a big Agnes Fly Creek 2-person platinum tent that was pretty. That's the extra waterproof version. A 15-degree sleeping bag. I can't remember which brand it was, but it was one of the name brands. And I had a big Agnes also sleeping pad that was it was a little bit heavier and bigger than I probably needed looking back now. But
and did you get work out for you, or did you trade up as you went along?
I eventually traded out for a lighter sleeping bag that happened to be 30-degree instead of 15-degree, and let's see what else. Anything else I traded? Oh, my pack. That was a big thing too, because I started out with an ultralight, a ULA ultralight pack, the Circuit ULA. Uh-huh. I intended to be ultralight, but because I had so much stuff, the pack didn't carry the weight well because it's designed for lighter loads. So eventually, about Gatlinburg is when I decided to switch out to the Osprey, and I changed it into I forget which Osprey model, but it's a 65 liter. It's a little bit heavier duty, maybe the Aether, and that carried the weight much better.
So what were you carrying then that most people didn't carry?
Just extra clothes, probably extra food, extra water, so a few redundancies.
Yeah, and you do learn those redundancies quite early on, don't you?
Yeah,
you should do anyway.
Yeah,
if you don't, you're in trouble.
Yeah.
And did you set up a YouTube channel, as people often do? Did you intend to put up content while you were hiking, or was it always your plan to do it after the hikes? I see you've got the first 6 days. You put those up since you've hiked, didn't you?
Yeah, there's 6 episodes up and another one about to be up soon. But I originally thought that I would like to try to release videos as I went. But when I got out there, I just realized how much more time it would take to edit. Plus, I didn't really have the right equipment. I didn't have like a good laptop for editing, and my phone wasn't advanced enough to really do a lot of good editing. So I just decided that I would film as much as I could along the way, and then after I finished, then I would start editing and releasing all the videos, which is what I've been doing.
So after that first day, the first 3 days when you called your girlfriend and come pick you up, you've kind of done. How did you start working towards getting the rhythm of the hike and enjoying the thing? Because it is, when it's just a frightening experience, isn't it?
Yes.
To go up and over Blood Mountain when it's not, it's not great, optimum conditions, let's say, because the downside of Blood Mountain, especially
that was the scariest.
Top, that is a nightmare, isn't it?
Yes.
It's a nightmare, even in good conditions.
Yes,
but doing
I know.
It at night,
I know. In the middle of the night, it was dark. That was very scary. It really was. Yeah, that was the first really scary experience I had. And
so what did you do to get over that? Once it's all very well saying getting your girlfriend to come up and you change your mind the next morning, but the problem's still there, isn't it? You're still building the experience. How did you build that experience?
Yeah, well, I really had to remind myself, that this was a dream of mine, that I was passionate about this, and that I had to think about how would I feel down the road if I did quit. And for me, I just knew I wouldn't be able to really forgive myself. I would never get over it. And I wanted to be happy with myself in the future about how I dealt with it. So I knew I had to just keep putting one foot in front of the other, and eventually things would start to get more normal or comfortable. And that did start to happen. It just took a few weeks to get into the rhythm of things.
We often talk about the rhythm of the hike.
Yeah.
When did you feel you got that rhythm? And it's a funny thing that happens, isn't it? You suddenly wake up in the morning, you start walking, and you get into that routine.
Yeah.
So what was it? Where were you when that happened to you?
I would say a few weeks. It was probably about a month in when I really started to feel like I was in the rhythm and had a routine. It probably took at least a month, I would say. And I would say even longer to like get my trail legs and that was about like 2 months.
It's not the same thing at all, is it?
No.
It's absolutely not the same thing at all.
No.
People definitely mistake the rhythm for the trail legs. Yeah, they are two entirely different things that kick in.
Yeah.
So as people knew that you were an inexperienced hiker, your friends and family and so on, what was their, I know you're a 30 or 35-year-old man, so it's not as if they could tell you not to do it.
No, they definitely.
What was their reaction?
Yeah, they definitely felt like I probably should have, planned more, but that's just what parents always seem to think. And I knew that I just needed to get out there and do it and live and learn through experience. Yeah, they actually really did. Did they support you
from home?
Yeah, they were very supportive. They were very excited. Every time I would get to a town, I would call them and let them know where I was, and they were really proud. And they were proud like early on, and I kept telling them, "Don't be proud yet. Wait till I get to the end." But yeah.
Yes. You can't accept too many congratulations until you actually step on the the sign.
Yeah, because it just felt it didn't feel right. People like being proud or congratulating me, especially really early on. I mean, once I made it like more than halfway, I was kind of okay with it. But yeah, I really.
But by then, of course, you really want to finish it, don't you?
Yeah.
Then while it would be an amazing achievement to go 1,000 miles, it isn't the achievement of finishing it at all. Mm-hmm. And that would have really pissed me off as well.
Yeah.
So did your family send you packages, or how did you resupply?
My mother sent me one package, just a little care package with a few snacks that I like. But most of it was just every time I would get to a town, I would go to whatever store I could find, and I would just get it on the fly, like wherever I was, mostly. I didn't
You said you were carrying a lot of food, though.
Yeah.
So it was your fault.
Yeah, it was my fault.
You didn't plan that then.
No. Yeah, and in the future, I would recommend to myself or to other people to do a little bit of meal planning, because I didn't. I just grabbed as much food as I could off the shelves and put it in my pack, and it was super heavy after any town or store. Yeah, I didn't really think about how much I needed.
My plan second time was to resupply and think I had 3 days to the next town or 4 days to the next town. And I wanted to walk into town with no food left.
Yeah, that's what I've heard people say. And that's probably that's definitely a smart thing.
That may be scary, actually, for some people, especially if you get held up.
Yeah, it can be scary at first, but it really is the best for your body and for
Absolutely.
I think for the overall hike.
And when you were out there, you were mainly looking for solitude. You told me last time.
Yeah, solitude.
What was that all about? You didn't want the camaraderie of other people.
No. I did. I wanted that. I wanted both, really. I wanted all the quote unquote AT experiences that I'd heard of. I wanted the social, the meeting amazing people along the way, because those are some of the best people I've ever met in my life were out there.
Sure.
So I definitely wanted that, but. And I also wanted some solitude. I didn't necessarily want the partying aspect of it, like a lot of the really younger kids get into. So I wanted some social, but I also wanted a little bit of solitude, and that's why I mostly slept in my own tent. I didn't really like to sleep in shelters, because first of all, you're on top of people and people snore, and that can keep you up, and all these things.
Yeah, all the snoring and farting going on around you. It's
terrible. I also found that I was actually colder in shelters, and I was warmer in my tent.
Yeah, totally. Because I was very comfortable in my tent as well. And you mentioned how much you love nature and so on. Mm-hmm. But you did talk about when we spoke before, you were talking about soul searching,
Yeah.
and anxiety and things like that.
Yeah.
So, what state of mind were you in when you went, and how did the trail alter that?
Yeah. So before I went to on the trail, there was definitely a lot more anxiety and and caused by just being in a fast-paced society, and I'd always dreamt of just getting away, being off the grid, getting out there and connecting with nature, and I had a feeling that it would really help all those feelings, and so once I went out there, it didn't take too long for all that to just melt away, and for things to really, for me to mentally and my mental health to be in a really good place. So out there, I just felt free. I felt free of anxiety. I just felt really free. Yeah. That's
You
the only way
actually
I can explain
cancelled
it.
your cell phone service, didn't you? Which
Yep.
hardly anybody ever does.
Yep, I know.
So what was that like? Because I don't know if you noticed this. When I certainly went in 2019, not 2014, but when people were going to shelters, the first thing they would do would be check their phone.
Yep. Hmm.
And they still do that, do they?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yep.
But you couldn't do that because you had no cell phone.
Nope.
So did it feel good to be disconnected from the world?
Yeah, it did. There was times when I kind of felt like I wanted it or whatever, but overall it forced me to be more present. It forced me to have those conversations with people instead of staring at my phone. You know what I mean? It forced me to just think more and feel and allow me to listen to my own thoughts within and try to get to know myself better.
And did you find you resolved a lot of things out there when you were out there?
Yeah, it doesn't make everything perfect, but it definitely gave me a broader perspective on things.
And having given up your phone when you're out on the trail, did you get one when you get? Well, you obviously did because you're on the phone to me now.
Yeah.
What was it like to get back into a connected life from having been disconnected?
Yeah, I still don't do regular phone service like most people do. I still use Wi-Fi, but now I'm always by Wi-Fi instead of out there. It was just once in a while when I'm in town.
Right.
So yeah, I'm definitely more connected, but it's also that brings its own stress. Now I feel like I have to be on social media more, and because I got videos to promote and all that.
Do you miss the trail?
Yes. Oh man, the post trail depression is real. I for the first couple weeks
I shouldn't
after,
laugh because I know what you feel like.
yeah, for the first couple weeks after, I would have flashbacks, and I would just have moments of time where I would just be like, oh, I'm not out there now, and I just get a little sad. But I still feel like I would love to take off right now and get right back out there, but I just can't. So yeah,
You can.
I know. I know I can. But I need to work and save up again.
I want to step back a bit though. So you got into the rhythm of the hike. You were comfortable. You were feeling the anxiety going. You were feeling great on the trail. And normally, certainly for me, it wasn't until about 400 or 500 miles from the end I thought, I'm going to do this. Unless I fall over and kill myself, whatever, I'm going to do this. So did you get that moment? Because it was kind of an impossible dream for you in the first place, wasn't it? That you could do the whole 2,200 miles.
Yeah.
When did you start feeling, this works for me, I can do it?
Yeah, I think that comes from like the fact that people don't really do that much in our society anymore. In history, it was normal for people to migrate across country like that. And we've gotten so far removed from that. So that's probably where my thought about this is impossible came from, even though I knew that physically it was probably possible, but until I did it. And I would say once I reached about 3/4 way, is pretty much when I realized I was gonna make it unless I had a serious injury. But once I got halfway, I was pretty confident as well.
Did it give you a confidence perhaps you lacked in your previous life? The fact that you've accomplished this now?
Yes, definitely. Yeah.
So let's talk about the day. Let's talk about Katahdin. It's I promise you, every time I interview somebody, as I've done 300 episodes now, every time I interview somebody and I talk about their Katahdin day, people often probably must wonder themselves, why does he keep asking about the Katahdin day? Because it's fantastic, isn't it?
That was the day that I'll always remember. Yeah, that
So
place
tell
was
us,
beautiful.
start from the beginning. Tell us about the day then. Tell us about the day.
Yeah, so let's see here. I remember when I arrived at Abel Bridge.
Awesome sight.
Yeah, and then the next day, my girlfriend met up with me at that campground there.
All right.
And then
and at Abel Bridge by by the place where you get back, you can have burgers for lunch and dinner.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then I decided that the next day I would do, I think, the first 10 miles up to the Birches.
Yeah.
And then I would camp at the Birches that night, and then the following day.
Was your girlfriend with you then?
No, not at the Birches. She stayed back at the campground.
Okay, right.
Yeah. And then, because I think they only allow thru-hikers at the Birches.
Right. Okay.
But
true,
so then the next day I decided I summited, and it was a pretty beautiful day. The day before was a little bit foggy, but then the day I summited was a little bit clearer. It was definitely cold up there though. I couldn't believe how much colder it was up there because it was kind of summery still. Well, no, that's not true. I guess it was fall because I that was September 5th that I summited.
Yeah. Right.
And so, but once it was a beautiful day, but once I got up there, there was so much wind that everybody was just kind of like trying to rush to get to the sign, take the picture, and then get back on off the mountain. So I kind of wish that maybe I would have had like a sunnier day, but
you had to stay present in the moment, though,
yeah,
don't you?
But it was still beautiful, and the Baxter State Park was beautiful too. I loved it there. It was one of the most beautiful parks.
The place is gorgeous.
I've ever been
place
to.
is gorgeous.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you got above tree line. I always remember that bit as well. You get above tree line, suddenly you look up and there's this like vertical wall in front of you, isn't it?
Yeah.
Did you find that intimidating, or were you now so
a little bit?
Now so strong.
I was, but certain parts of Katahdin were intimidating up there. You know, some of that rock climbing. It's literally basically free soloing, just rock climbing without any kind of safety gear and.
Yes.
And I had I knew I had the skill and technique to do it, but I definitely had to slow down a little bit because it is definitely a force to be reckoned with. It has plenty of danger, plenty of people. I feel like you definitely could easily die up there. So I had to really be respectful. And be careful.
What? I think that's it. You have to be respectful of the mountain. You don't have to. You don't try to take it on. Yeah. It is what it is. It comes to you, and you work your way up there.
Yeah.
But when you approach that sign, did you feel emotional? Were you glad it was over? It sounds to me like you enjoyed it so much you almost didn't want it to finish.
Yeah, it was very emotional. But once I saw the sign in within sight, I started to tear up and get really emotional. Yeah, but that whole day was really.
What about touching the sign?
Yeah, touching the sign, like I was very emotional as well. It was just a culmination of everything, And I didn't want it to end, like you just said. I really didn't. I thought about just trying to continue on.
Well, some people do just turn around and go back again.
Mm-hmm, yeah,
which is
I thought about doing that too. Yeah.
And one of the viewers of your YouTube channel commented about how they love hearing your life lessons on the trail. And I've recently been reviewing some of the lessons that the trail taught me for this show. Have you been able to reflect yet upon what you have learned about yourself and about life?
Well, I definitely learned not to take things for granted. I learned that just getting out in nature can do a lot for a person's psyche and for their soul. And I haven't really thought too much about the lessons yet. But
has that well-being stayed with you, or are you saying that the post-trail depression is getting to you now and starting to pull you back?
No, I don't let it affect me too much, but it is a little bit there. But I don't let it affect me too much because of all the things I learned out on the trail, and I know that I'll be out there again, doing something similar. Whether it's the PCT,
well, that's the remedy, isn't it? Go back there,
or then
go back there, or go and do something else. So exactly. What is next? Would you ever go back on the AT, or would you try the PCT or
I would
CDT?
Absolutely go back on the AT. I think I might possibly thru-hike it again one day, or at least do sections. I definitely would like to also thru-hike the PCT and maybe the CDT as well. because I know before I started, I was like, I think I would like to do the Triple Crown, do the three big ones.
Yeah. I think that ship sailed for me.
Yeah. During hiking, I started thinking maybe I don't want to do that. Like maybe this is it and I'll never hike again because it is so hard. But then when I finished, I was like, nah, I have to do it again. Totally. But I haven't decided whether I'm going to do the river. I'll probably do the river adventure first because that's a lower budget and that's only about 100 miles. I'm going to probably do the Suwannee River in Florida.
Nice.
From the top to the Gulf.
Oh, cool.
And
well, look, I'm glad you came on, and I'm glad you had a great adventure there. I think actually it's kind of unfair for anybody to ask you your takeaways from a journey as massive as this.
Yeah.
Because I don't think you fully processed it yet. I don't think anybody does fully process it straight away.
Yeah.
But as time goes on, you're going to realize more and more how important this has been in your life. So I appreciate you coming on and sharing it with us.
I think so, yeah. Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Okay, buddy. Take it easy, okay?
All right, you too, man.
Cheers then. Bye.
All right, bye.
Oh my God. You could tell how he's just aching for the trail, can't you? You can hear it in his voice. As we've said before on the show, be careful what you wish for. This hike can shake your world and completely upend your expectations of not only the hike itself, but the way you see the world around you once it's done. I think that's what Carl's going through now. And check out his YouTube channel. I've put a link in the show notes and you can catch up with his hike as he's now regularly posting his videos. Thanks this week goes to the following people. Joanne Birditt, who's just coming up as one of our class of 2022, along with Daniel Manning and Mike Oldham, made significant contributions, as well as monthly donors John Cratler, Betty McInerney, Sean Deadwiley, and Emmanuel Brother Ramos. Thanks to you all for liking our shows enough that you wanted to give value for value. If you'd like to do the same, just go to hikingradionetwork.com and click on one of the many donate buttons you're going to find there. Cheers. Now, it is Joanne Birditt, who is this week's latest inductee to the class of 2022. Here's Joanne. Today's guest on the 2022 thru-hiker season, the midsection of the show for people who are going to be hiking in 2022, is a lady named Joanne Birditt. Hey, Joanne, how are you? Joanne Birditt, sorry.
Close enough. I go by many names.
Okay, you go by many names. That's good. And I've got to share with everybody, by the way, when I reached out to Joanne to be on the show, she says, I'm a bit introverted until I know folks, then I'm a bit salty. So naturally, I had to invite her onto the show. How salty are you then? Is this when you're hiking only or just in life generally?
Oh, no, in life in general, very salty.
Not a bad thing. And actually, I often do a bit of cyber stalking for people, and I notice your Facebook profile has a picture of you on the top of Whitney in August this year. Is that right?
Correct. It is.
That is almost exactly the same date as I was scheduled to be summiting Whitney. It was either 16th or 17th, and you were August the 17th. That picture was in there anyway.
The 20th. We summited it on the 20th. Yeah.
Oh, right. Was it? Okay, right. So I'm not going to ask you about that one. I'm dead jealous. I've never been able to do that. I've tried three times. I've been hopeless, but whatever. But you're hiking the AT next year. So there's generally a bunch of questions I've been asking people, and I want to kind of go through those as well. When are you planning to start your hike?
I'm starting April 2nd.
Oh, quite late. Is there any reason for that?
Well, I hail from Arizona, so I'm not overly fond of cold. So I'm hoping to avoid a little of that.
Right.
And it's just going to work out, I think.
Are you starting early and expecting to finish? Sorry, are you starting in April and expecting to finish before it gets really cold up north?
Well, I'm hoping to get there before like the end of September. Fingers crossed.
All right, okay. It cools down. It cools down. I got there at the end of September last time. It was getting very fresh by then, let me tell you.
Yeah, I guess, cold itself doesn't worry me too terribly much, but rain is going to be a struggle for me, I think. I don't have a lot of that in Arizona. So
trust me, you're going to get your fill of it up the east coast of the country. There's plenty of rain, but you know what? It's kind of part of the hike, isn't it, really? So what is your hiking experience? Obviously, having done the John Muir Trail or done Whitney recently, what is your hiking experience?
So I started backpacking about 10 years ago when I turned 50. So I've done, this past summer, I retired in June. So this past summer,
nice.
Yes, very nice. I was fortunate enough to do about half of the Tahoe Rim Trail, and then headed over to the Wind River Range in southern Wyoming.
Everybody loves that, don't they? Everybody loves the Wind River.
Wind River Range is just spectacular, and no permits required. So they don't like to let people know that, but it's a true story. And then I actually, Whitney, we did what's called the High Sierra Trail. And
you did you? Okay.
Yeah. So it is, like you, I have had some issues with elevation in the past, and was a little leery about headed over there, but I really, really, really wanted to summit Whitney. So we headed over to...
How'd you get past it? How'd you get past it then? How'd you get past it?
We went over to Sequoia. So the High Sierra Trail travels from west to east. And it actually ended at Whitney and then out the Whitney portal. So we went over to Sequoia for about 3 days beforehand and car camped. So we got a little accustomed to the elevation. And then the approach from that side is a little more gradual. So it gives your body some time to get adjusted to the elevation.
And when you got there, were you okay? When you got to the top?
I was great.
I would imagine you're running on adrenaline at that stage as well, aren't you? It just looks so magnificent.
You know, we had a very, very long first day. We did about 16 and a half miles day one. And then we tapered down about 2 miles every day. And we summited Whitney on day 5.
Nice.
So it was nice because like I said, the elevation, it's a kind of a gradual approach up to Whitney.
Sure.
So by adjusting the mileage down and the elevation up, we had a kind of gradual approach, which sounds like what you're going to be doing next year.
That's right. This is like an ongoing thing with me. It's going to be a saga I'll be talking about till I die. No,
you're gonna make it. You're gonna make it.
No, I'm starting to get more confident about that now. So you probably don't need to prepare too much physically for the Appalachian Trail, do you? Because you've been hiking recently. So by the way, are you going with somebody or are you going by yourself?
I'm going by myself. I have a friend in North Carolina that's going to. I'm going to park my car there, and she's going to get me to the trailhead, and then she'll probably join me for a week. Hopefully, I'll get to North Carolina. It'll time with her spring break, and
nice.
And then she'll hike with me for about a week.
Funny enough, when people do join you on a hike, you've often got your leg. Perhaps you won't do by then because you're in North Carolina. It's quite early on. Mm-hmm. But when people join other people on the hike, it does slow them down. It's surprising how fit you suddenly become when you get your legs. But anyway, I want to go back to. I was talking about preparing physically, and you probably don't need to because you have been hiking. But how are you preparing mentally to take a 6-month hike or a 5-month hike?
I had thought about doing a thru hike for a while. I have a very good friend. His trail name is Click. And he has done the PCT and the PNT and just recently did the CDT. And I drove him and a friend of his, a gal named Chance, Not a Chance Hikes. So if you ever get a chance to interview her, she is phenomenal. Right. She has more thru hiking under her belt than anybody I know. She's a youngin'. And I was talking to her because for me, the hike is more about mental. I am an overly responsible person, and spend.
You're going to be a lot of fish out of water on the trail then, in that case.
And for me, it was like I will spend a lot of time thinking about every possible thing that could go wrong and what all the contingency plans are. So I was talking to her when I was driving them down to the terminus of the Arizona Trail, and I said, do you not, because she's absolutely fearless. And I said, do you not worry? Do you not have fears? She says, oh no, I have plenty of fears. I just do it in spite of it. And I kind of took that to heart and said, you know what, I'm going to do this. Out of all of them, the AT is most conducive to not having to worry overly about water. Which, out here in the West, water is a huge thing. we worry about it a lot.
And you can get off quickly. You can get off quickly on the AT as well. So if you need to, it's not too worrying about getting off as well. So that's a good point. Yeah.
So those two things, and just the decision that I'm going to do it. It's the right time. My kids are all grown and married. I've retired. It's just the right time for me to do it before I get any older.
Are your family supporting you on this journey?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
No doubts?
Oh, no. No. I have 3 boys who have, no, I'm a pretty independent person, always have been. And they just want me to keep my inReach, not so much to communicate, because I don't use it for communication. I only use it for SOS. But they just want to make sure the body can be found for the insurance. Just kidding.
Quite right, too.
They don't want to wait for 7 years.
That's exactly what they want. That's hilarious. Oh, boy, it's fine. You're good to go there. She's got the inReach.
That's right. We can find the body.
So is your equipment dialed in from your High Sierra hike, or are you going to make some changes to that equipment?
I actually just made a change. I sucked it up and bought an Altaplex.
Okay.
I had been using a copper spur, a one-man copper spur, which I really like. It's freestanding. It's got the fly, but it does get a little wet when it rains, and it's a little heavier than the Altaplex. So
keeping your weight down. It's the most important thing you can do. Keep your weight down as much as possible.
My base weight right now is just under 14 pounds. So.
Wow, very good.
Yeah, I'm pretty happy about that. I'm going to the Grand Canyon this weekend or over the holiday, and we'll be taking the Altaplex out for the first time. So we'll see how it goes. Yeah.
Cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
So what about resupply? Are you going to go into towns, or are you going to get drop boxes? What are you going to do?
I'm probably going to go into town. I do have my friend in North Carolina that can send me some resupply boxes. I'm vegetarian, so we'll have to see. We'll have to see how those food choices go. I'm not a picky eater. I can eat the same thing for 5-10 days in a row. It doesn't bother me at all.
Apart from oatmeal, of course.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, coffee in the morning is about it, and then So
well, certainly. If I went a second time in 2019, and I wondered to myself about getting drop boxes, but in fact I went into town all the time, and it was much better for many reasons, one of which is my former wife used to send me tons of stuff, because she thought I was losing weight, and so I was carrying way too much food. People remember me for giving my food away in the shelters because I had so much food on me. So going into town is, I think, definitely a good way to do it. You've already mentioned your expectations of you're pretty confident you're going to do it. What gives you that confidence? Because this is not a walk in the park, whatever anybody thinks.
Well, I think the fact that I don't have, other than weather, I don't have a timeline. I'm retired. I can take as long as I want.
Sure.
I can flip flop if I need to. I find I'm going slow. I've got pretty strong legs right now, so I'm fairly happy that I'm going to be starting off good. But the reality is I don't have anything to prove. So my thought is to go and to do it and to not, I find I get into trouble if I'm hiking somebody else's hike. I have done.
Damn right.
Yeah. So I've turned around on 2 different trips in elevation in the past because I was with some really strong hikers, didn't feel good.
Right.
And rather than hold them up, because when you get into passes and stuff like that, you don't want to be the one holding people up when they've got a summit over through a pass and you've got lightning possibilities and things like that.
Sure.
So I don't have, like, for safety reasons, I have nothing to prove. I have no problem then just saying, you know what, y'all go, I'll do my own thing and I'll meet you back at wherever back was, and spend the time by myself, which is fine. I like being by me. It's not an issue.
I know that some people, the reason I know this is because I interviewed a bunch of people about it, their biggest fear before they started the trail was not being able to finish. Does that not bother you that much at all?
No. No.
Okay. Well, you know what? I think that's one of the best expectations to have. No, you don't expect to get 2,200 miles, but if you do, happy days, you get there, which is wonderful. What are you most looking forward to on this trip?
I know this is going to sound strange, but I'm actually looking forward to the Green Tunnel. I lived in Arizona for over 20 years. I originally come from California, so green is a novelty for us.
Green is good.
Yeah, green is good. And rocks, we hear about Rocksylvania. I don't know that it's going to bother me. Do a lot of canyon hiking, spend a lot of time on rocks. So just slow down, take your time.
Cool.
Hopefully.
And what do you say if you're looking forward to the Green Tunnel? What are you least looking forward to on the trail?
Rain.
Really?
Yeah. I have an umbrella, but I usually use my umbrella for sun, if I'm honest. Right. Like mostly it goes up to protect us from heat.
Yeah. Of course, it's a different use out on the AT. And I used an umbrella last time with the rain. It does help dramatically, but sometimes the rain gets so darn heavy, you just makes no difference at all.
Yeah. I'm not.
And what about,
to
do you have a trail name already, or are you going to let yourself be named?
No, I do have a trail name. My trail name is Foxbait. Foxbait.
Oh, God, terrible name. Foxbait.
It is. Well, when we were discussing the trail name, it was based over an occurrence in Saguaro National Park. We were backpacking with some very good friends of mine, and I talk in my sleep a lot, and everybody that backpacks with me knows that. And so when I start talking at night, they tend to ignore me, which is fine, as it should be. This particular night, it was about 4:00 in the morning, and I started having I was sleeping in a Fly Creek at that time, a 2-man Fly Creek from Big Agnes. Great tent. Love that tent. But it has like a wishbone pole system. And so that tail pole, that back pole sits in the center of your foot. And there's something scratching at the end of my tent, and it's scratching and scratching. And I get up and I clap my hands, go, ha, ha, scat, scat, thinking it's a chipmunk or something, whatever. But it's hitting that back pole and kind of shaking the whole tent. And I'm like, what the hell is out there? And I have a good friend that's maybe 15 yards away, and he's cowboy camping. And I'm like, John, what's out there? And he's ignoring me, thinking I'm talking in my sleep. So he finally wakes up it's 4:00 in the morning. He wakes up and he turns on his headlamp, and sure enough, there's a freaking rabid fox that at this point has now torn through my fly, torn through my tent.
Oh, wow.
And ripped off about a 1-inch strip off of my sleeping pad. So my pad, that's when I started to get a little nervous, and my pad went whoosh, and that was it.
Wow.
Yeah. So
Foxbait, you are well named.
Yes. So
you
he's like,
well named.
He's like, we should go with Foxy. And I'm like, no, that is like some false advertising there. We should go with more like bait. So that's how Foxbait came to be. Yeah. It was a night to remember.
Well, look, Foxbait, I hope your dream comes true, because I know it's a dream. I know what it's like out there, and I hope you really enjoy it out there. What I would ask you, if you want to, every now and then, if something great happens or terrible happens, just let me know, and I'll record you out on the trail, and then we'll just catch up with you when you're out on there. Would that be okay?
Absolutely. That would be great.
That's very cool. Okay. Well, look, good luck. And we'll certainly speak soon, okay?
Okay. Take care.
Cheers, then. Bye. She's got such a positive yet laid-back attitude. She's quietly confident that this is doable for her, but she's not going to be fazed if it doesn't work out exactly as she hopes. That's the type of attitude that will serve her well next year and could take her a very long way up the trail. I'm really looking forward to catching up with our class of 22 as they start to head out. We regularly hear stories from those who've done it. It's going to be fascinating to hear these stories unfold as the weeks stretch into months out on the AT next year. Finally today, Winton Porter solves the mystery of the Samsonite Twins. And, as often happens on the trail, a certain serendipity steps in to help him work it all out. I'll see you next week. Chapter 17, Double Dose. The population of the little town of Jessup, the seat of Wayne County in southeastern Georgia, is 10,000 plus, of whom I had known only 2. One was a college roommate I hadn't seen in more than 14 years, and the other was a hiker named Joe Naya, the lead investigator for the Wayne County Sheriff. The Mountain Crossings crew met Joe in early May 2001 when I was preparing to take over the store, and he was about 55. He looked and acted about 10 years younger. He had the build of a long-distance runner, thin and sinewy, no loose flesh. His weight probably had never varied more than 8 pounds in his adult life. Joe was 30.7 miles into his lifelong dream of hiking the Appalachian Trail. That day in 2001, I found Joe in the backyard of the shop trying to configure a shelter out of a huge blue construction top. A stranger to me then, he looked like a kid trying to lay a blanket on a windy beach, feet stretched out, hands grabbing for sticks and rocks to throw into the corners he could not reach. When he got one corner held down, another would flap up. I enjoyed the clown performance for 5 minutes before approaching him on the hill. "Don't you have a tent?" I said. "I had a tent, but it fell off my pack somewhere on the mountain," said Joe, grunting. "You look like you're playing a game of one-man twister." The man fell to the ground and onto his knees, reached out a hand and smiled. "Hi, my name is Joe." I shook his hand, gave my name, and asked if he was headed for Maine. "Yep, that's my plan." "Well, if you would like, I can help you set up the tarp, or you can come inside and take some space on the couch." "I only have $30. "Well, I guess you'll just have to forget about room service." Joe stayed at the house for 2 days. We talked both nights until late in the evening about gear, family, dreams and hiking, as if we had known each other all our lives. Joe wasn't a broke or homeless hiker down on his luck. He was just cheap. Nearly every piece of equipment he had was from Walmart, and nearly all of it had failed on the first 30 miles of the trail. The pack was blowing seams. The sleeping bag nearly killed him in the cold. The tent was, as he said, happily lost. He was a good guy without much of an idea of what he was doing, but he was ready to learn. His trail name was given to him on our deck by one of the trail's great teachers, a person Joe thought was a broke, homeless hiker down on his luck, a poor old guy who was carrying less than 12 pounds in a pack the size of a grocery bag. Joe discreetly asked me to break a 20 so he could give him a few dollars. I grinned. "You want to give that skinny fellow over there with the long beard sitting at the picnic table some money?" "Yeah, not much, $5-10. He needs the money more than I do, and he seems like a nice guy. I tried to help him last night, showed him all the equipment that I had and where I got it. He gave me my trail name." "Follow me." "Did he tell you who he was?" I led Joe to the bookshelves by the bay windows. "No, I think his trail name was Thimblewell. Close." I handed Joe a book with the man's picture on the cover and watched his eyes pop open in amazement. I explained that his charity might be wasted on the author of 10 Million Steps by M.J. Eberhardt, trail name Nimblewell Nomad, who was one of the most famous and accomplished distance hikers in the world, and one of the most humble, generous and thoughtful too. Nimblewell was an optometrist before he sold everything he had and became the first man to walk from Key West, Florida to Canada. He'd also walked the Continental Divide Trail, Pacific Crest Trail, the American Discovery Trail, the Lewis and Clark. He'd walked from North Carolina to Cape Disappointment in Washington State. Nimblewell might have earned Joe's $5 outright, just for having the patience to listen to Joe talk about every piece of equipment that he had in his 50-pound pack, how much he'd paid for it at Walmart. But Nimblewell took it out of Joe by giving him a trail name instead. That's how Joe Naya became Walmart Joe. Were the Samsonite Twins taking their medications? Carolyn Patterson's question earlier this day, a few days after my meeting with Walmart Joe, had caught me off guard. I hadn't seen any medications when I went through their packs, and anyway, what medications? For what ailments? Were they diabetics, epileptics, or psychotics? Or did they just have allergies? I had asked Caroline how I would know if the twins weren't taking their medications, and the conversation had developed this way. "Well, they sleep a lot if they don't take the medication, and they're a little more..." Here, Caroline must have stopped to sip sweet tea, choosing a word while I quietly panicked. "A little more what? A little more what?" "Moody," Caroline said. "Are they around any children?" Who in the hell have I let onto my property and into my house? What monster is out there right now playing with my daughter and my daughter's melting snowman? I went to the back room and found Alpine talking with a customer. Covering the mouthpiece of the portable phone with my hand, I pushed my shoulder into Alpine's back, nearly slamming him into the customer in front of him. He turned, and with great seriousness in my eyes and with anger in my whisper, I said, "Soldier, go get my daughter and bring her inside now. That's an order." Alpine followed the command without so much as an "excuse me." leaving behind a baffled customer with one shoe on. I returned my focus to the phone and tried to remain calm. I needed more information. I told Caroline I had 2 girls, 3 and 7 years old by that time. "Oh, they won't hurt them," she said, matter-of-factly. "Did you notice the scar on Brayden's neck?" "No, I haven't seen it." "Well, Brandon choked him so hard one time that one of his fingers went into his brother's neck. It's a pretty good-sized scar." "Fascinating. You're a few sandwiches short of a picnic lady. And this medication they're on helps with these anger management issues? What kinds of medication are they supposed to be taking?" Alpine returned from his mission, delivered Alison, and went back to the customer he had abandoned moments ago. Alison asked me timidly, "Daddy, why did you want to see me? My snowman is melting. I don't think it will last much longer. Can I go back outside?" I stooped, spread my hand across her tiny shoulders and held her to my knee. "I just wanted to know where you were," I told her, cupping my hand over the phone's mouthpiece. "Well, actually, they have a couple of different medications," Caroline was saying. "But yes, the main one is for social purposes. They sure have come a long way over the past couple of years. You see, they've been living in and out of orphanages and foster homes most of their life. We adopted them when they were 13, and that is a hard age for kids. You see, Mr. Porter, if they weren't up there on the trail, they would both be in jail right now." "Jail? What did they do?" "Nothing yet, but if they were here, they'd be in jail. There's my opening. Where's here for you, Caroline?" "Jessup, Georgia," she sang. "We're about 45 minutes southwest of Savannah, Georgia." I thought, she must lay a foot on her accelerator. I drive fast, but it would take me at least an hour. Polite kids, they look normal. Social medication, jail, choking, scars. Are they around children? What level of crazy are we dealing with here? Who do I know in Jessup, Georgia? "Listen, Mr. Porter, I really appreciate you looking after the boys. Would you mind getting a list of everything you think they need? I can't come up this week, but I can next week. And I can stop by Walmart on the way up, but I will have to talk with their father first. I've got to go now." "Caroline, just one more question. The boys say they're 19. Is that true?" "I know they don't look it, but yes, they are 19. I must go. I can't talk right now." "I will call you in a few days," she said anxiously, and hung up. "Stop by Walmart," she said. That's when I remembered who I knew in Jessup. Joe is originally from New Jersey, where he started his career as a police officer and later became a detective for the New Jersey State Police. After 30 years of chasing murderers, gangsters and drug dealers, the divorced father of 2 grown girls moved south on his own. Unlike most Jersey retirees I met on the trail, he didn't make it all the way to Florida. During one of our late-night talks, he described his life in Jessup this way. "I bought a house, 60 acres on a lake, a fishing pole, and what I found out in a relatively short time was I loved to fish, but retirement bored me. The 60 acres was actually an old campground with 50 RV hookups, a couple of one-room cabins, and another 15 basic campsites, which brought him a modest income to supplement his pension. After a year of fishing, mowing fields, and picking burnt beer cans out of fire rings, Joe decided to get more involved in the community. He started hanging out at the local donut shop and the barbecue joints, and he began accepting invitations from strangers to watch the baseball games of kids he didn't even know. Anybody who hadn't pulled a gun on him, Joe liked. A solitary retired life wasn't for him. Eventually, one of his new friends in Jessup asked him to come to work for the sheriff's department, and that's where I find him today. 3 years after I last spoke with him, the tattered business card he'd given me was still in my wallet. Wayne County Sheriff's Department, how may I direct your call? Captain Joe Nyer's office, please. Hold on one moment, please. I will transfer you. Hello, Sheriff's Office. How can I help you? Is Captain Joe Nyer available, please? Can I tell him who's calling? This is Winton Porter at Mountain Crossings, a shop on the Appalachian Trail, I say, knowing that the last part would not go unnoticed. No one in his department would have escaped a tale about the sheriff's captain hiking the Appalachian Trail. Appalachian Trail, of course. One moment, please. Soon I hear Walmart Joe's friendly shout. Mr. Porter, how you doing? Joe, it's been a long time. I was wondering if you'd remember me. Never could forget you, Winton. You gave me shelter, bed and food. You know, it's funny you called just now. You would have missed me if you'd tried in a couple of weeks. I'm headed for the PCT. I fly into San Diego and... Joe is excited to talk to a trail person, someone who understands his obsessions. He goes on for several minutes, rarely taking a breath, telling me about his hopes of hiking the Pacific Crest Trail, recounting some of the highlights of his hike on the AT. Eventually, he pauses to take a breath. I tell him I need his help. He chuckles softly. How can we help you here in Jessup, Mr. Porter? Do you know the Passin Twins, Brandon and Brayden, that live somewhere in Jessup? And are they in some kind of trouble? No, that name doesn't ring a bell. It would have only come across my desk if they were involved in a felony. I give Joe a short history of the Samsonite Twins and a summary of the conversation I had with the mother. I end my spiel with, it sounds like if the local police don't know them, the pharmacy will. Wait a minute, yeah, I know Brandon and Brayden. They're up there with you. Well, I know their parents better. I've only met the twins once or twice. Yes, is that bad, I ask? No, those kids are in the best place they could possibly be up there with you on the trail. Their mother said the same thing. I wonder if one of you would mind explaining what the hell you mean. I mean, it'll do them some good. Fresh air, exercise, they need that. They're not bad kids. They don't have an easy time fitting in, but I don't think they're crazy. Typical teenagers. As for the parents, I don't know what to say. They're crazy, if anyone is. I somehow remember them calling us about the twins breaking into their barn and wanting us to arrest the boys and throw them in jail for the night. Why? Apparently, the family has a barn that the kids are not allowed to go into, and the boys kept breaking into the damn thing. So they called us and wanted them arrested. Typical teenage stuff. Don't know of any serious crimes they've committed. What's in the barn? Don't know. We need a warrant for that, Joe says, and I get the feeling that he's just a bit more amused by this than I can afford to be. I wouldn't worry about them, though. Being up there with you and away from here may just save their lives. I'll do some checking and see if there's anything we need to know. Please do. Apparently these kids are on enough medication that it could turn a horse into a lumbering cow. Or they're supposed to be. According to Caroline, as long as they take their meds, we should be fine. But I'm a little concerned that they miss a dose or two. We could have a horror flick in our future. Let me see what I can find out. I'll get back with you later, but I've got to run now. I'll call you back. Joe hangs up the phone. Later that day, I'm standing by the fireplace, deep in thought, wondering about that barn, whether it's full of livestock or pipe bombs, imagining the hose, the barbed wire, the pitchforks, when I hear a childlike voice from behind say, "Mr. Porter, excuse me." I turn and one of the twins is standing there, his shirt covered in mud, holding a shovel. He stands like a soldier at attention, expecting further directions of some sort. He has just accomplished something with the shovel. I step back, startled, pinning myself to the hearth. "Mr. Porter, I'm almost done planting those flowers in the garden. Do you want me to put some along the walkway?" "Ah," I say, "you're a fast man. I'd forgotten I asked you to do that. Thanks, Brayden." No, you're Brandon." "That would be fine, Brandon. Where's your brother?" "I'm Brayden. I don't know where Brandon is. I think he's taken a nap in the hostel." "Your mum told me about your medication. What does she call it?" "It's Hal-O. She calls it Hal-O. It keeps me focused on my studies." "Oh, well, she asked me if you were taking it. Are you?" "Yeah, I forgot yesterday, but I took some this morning." "What about your brother? Taking a nap? Did he take a nap yesterday? Did he take a nap the day before?" "I don't know," Brayden says, yawning hugely. "You have to ask him. He doesn't like it much. Says it makes him shaky. Do you want me to empty the trash cans too?" "Yeah, that would be good." Brayden turns and goes out with his shovel, doing a stiff-legged march with the shovel against his shoulder, which is either funny or insane, and I sneak to the window and watch him make a few trips back and forth to the garbage hutch. I find myself watching him with a detective's eye, a forensic attentiveness that makes me feel sort of silly. I'm trying to figure out where the crazy gene is hiding, exactly. The medication. That's the next place to look. Once I know what social medicine Mum was talking about, I'll probably feel better, and then maybe I could relax a little more. The mother didn't give me the name of the medication, but Brayden gave me a clue. I head for the computer and try a few Google searches. Hal-O medication. Halo drug. Hello drug. Halo crazy drug. Eventually, how Google does this, I do not know. Google helpfully assumes I've been trying to type Haldol. I click the top link anxiously. The web page comes up. There's a diagram of a molecule. Maybe it's like Ritalin for attention deficit disorder, or Prozac for depression, or a B vitamin supplement, something like that. No big deal. You can feed it to your schizophreniaconnection.net. Haldol oral. Haloperidol is used to treat certain mental mood disorders, e.g. schizophrenia, schizoaffective disorders. This medicine helps you to think more clearly, feel less nervous, and take part in everyday life. It can also help prevent suicide in people who are likely to harm themselves. It also reduces aggression and the desire to hurt others. It can decrease negative thoughts and hallucinations. Buddy, unloading some Snickers bars into the case behind the counter, sees me staring intently at the information on the computer screen. He takes a peek over my shoulder. "You're trying to figure out how to get rid of those voices in your head, aren't you? I had the same problem, even went to the doctor," he says with a chuckle. "Doc told me that all I needed to do was get a divorce, and the voice in my head would probably go away. That was my first wife, and Doc was right. The voices went away along with the car, house, furniture, the dog. Thanks for the advice, buddy, but I'm just doing a little research on the twins. I wouldn't worry about them. They're good kids, well-mannered and relatively quiet. And they're not married to my first wife. How crazy could they be?" The Samsonite Twins stay another week and a half before Mum finally shows up. Walmart Joe does call back and confirm that there are no outstanding warrants for Brandon and Brayden. "Typical teenagers," he says. He also lets me know that he ran into Caroline in the grocery store a few days after we talked. He said that the look on her face when he told her that he and I were friends and had talked about the boys was priceless. I feel stuck. I don't know what to do. Part of me wants to drive them as far away from my family and my business as possible. I'm consumed by the situation and try to find the answer from the staff, the winds, the trees, and the old building over a period of several days. I imagine a sneaky scheme to get rid of them. I will knock the boys out with a big dose of Xanax in their breakfast cereal, then haul them away to Murphy in their van, leaving them passed out with notes safety pinned to their shirts on the steps of the Cherokee County Courthouse. I try to imagine forgiving myself for this, but I can't. In the end, I guess the answer does come. Margie invites them into our house, lets them eat at our table, and eventually the twins open up and are leading the dinner conversation. At times, we cannot shut them up. The twins are smart, and together their intelligence borders on genius. It turns out also that they are unusually well-read, and they take turns citing passages from the works of Hemingway, Fitzgerald, Proust, and their favourite, Mark Twain. I ask if they have ever read Tolstoy, War and Peace, Anna Karenina. They both nod at both books, and Brayden is the one who says, "Now that man is crazy." Cooking is the twins' hidden talent. They want to show their appreciation for our help, and for days they talk about cooking us a meal. At first we're hesitant. A vision of the haloperidol molecule flashes before my eyes, and I don't want them playing with knives in the kitchen. I'm also afraid, given the potent pharmaceuticals they are packing, that they will drug us. We compromise and let them cook breakfast for the hikers and the staff. I give them $50 and Margie drops them off at the Ingalls grocery in town and lets them shop. The next morning they're up at 5 a.m. preparing breakfast with knives and flame and all in our kitchen. How they got into the house, I don't know. Beyond the usual good morning salutation on my early rise to get a cup of coffee, they hardly speak a word during the entire process. They are two people working as one to get a meal prepared for nearly 20 people. They move Pirate's table into the breezeway, cover it with a white tablecloth, and replace the centerpiece of pickled pig feet and eggs with 2 candle lanterns and a vase full of flowers that Brayden planted the week before. They have a second table in the corner with a 2-burner Coleman stove and 2 Teflon camp skillets where they can cook omelettes on demand. The table is filled with an incredible array of foods: crepes, fresh bananas, strawberries, melon, powdered sugar, boiled eggs, poached eggs, scrambled eggs, sausage, bacon, grits, cabbage, biscuits that sit in tins on top of sterno cans. When it's over, they clean for 2 hours, washing every dish, fork and spoon and scrubbing every countertop and floor. Eventually, Caroline does show up, 4 days later than promised. She isn't quite as I've imagined her. Although she does have big hair, she is thinner than her voice had led me to guess. I'm not expecting the 5-year-old and 12-month-old who come with her. She introduces herself with all of her southern pleasantries. "So nice to finally meet you. Thank you for taking care of my boys. God will bless you, and I'll keep you in my prayers." She's anxious to lead me to her car so she can show me all the wonderful treats she brought for the boys. Her little Mercedes station wagon is stuffed full, and when she opens the hatch, various cans of vegetables and meats roll onto the pavement. Brandon dutifully picks up the cans, tosses them back into the car and returns to a position behind me and to my right so they can still see the goodies in the car. Caroline seems to be one of those mothers who has conditioned herself in the world of hurry up. Unlike her telephone personality, she thinks fast, talks fast and moves fast, and never in unison. She starts pulling the food out of the bags and laying it on the ground in the parking lot as if she needs my immediate confirmation or blessing. She holds up a CVS bag and shakes it a few times, rolls her eyes and says, "This is one of the reasons I'm late. It took me nearly an hour to get the refills the boys needed for the next month, but I got them." I ask her if she's gotten the list of things I sent in an email. Well, she says, most of it. I had a chance to talk to the boys after we talked, and they thought that their sleeping bags were going to be okay. But I did get them shorts and, of course, some more socks. But I couldn't find any of those wicking socks you told me about. What did you get? She reaches into the car, holds up 2 bundled 6-packs of white cotton socks and proudly proclaims, $5.99 at the dollar store. Here you go, boys. One for you and one for you. Caroline, I say, with some disgust, why don't you carry this mountain of gifts down to the hostel and spread it out on the floor? I feel confident that they won't be able to carry all of this out of here. I can meet you downstairs in a few minutes and we can sort through it all. That would be fine, but I really wanted to take the twins down to town and get them something to eat. Can we do it later? That would be nice, but it's 5:30 now and I have a date with 2 little girls to go hiking. If you want my help, the dinner in town will have to wait. She's annoyed with my response, but she agrees. While Carolyn plays with the restless baby, the twins unload the groceries sheepishly. I gave them a stern look when Caroline mentioned their sleeping bags, and they haven't met my eye since. Josh, the 5-year-old, is excited to see his older brothers. The entire time he stays within feet of both Brandon and Brayden. He scampers after them, and they give him small things to carry. Downstairs, the boys spread the food out across the floor and onto the couch. They're enjoying a bag of cookies when I step inside. Caroline is rocking the now-fed baby to sleep in a carrier on the floor. Well, boys, I say, I'm going to make this fast. We spent a lot of time together over the past weeks. First, I have some sleeping bags that will replace your old ones. I will bring those to you tonight. Also, you both grab 2 pairs of socks off the wall at the shop in the morning. You can save the new ones for college next fall. I will sort out enough food to get you to the Nantahala Outdoor Centre, which is 7 days from where you will be dropped off tomorrow. Caroline, I will give you directions to Dick Creek Gap near Hiawassee in the morning. Why can't they just start here? Asked Caroline. I give the answer to the boys. Brandon, Brayden, no offence, you have both played the role of model children for 3 fun weeks, but I want you far enough away that you aren't tempted to walk back. Is that a good enough reason? They yes sir me solemnly. Caroline, when we are done shifting through the food, you'll have to decide what you want to do with the other 85%. You can drive it or ship it to the Nantahala Outdoor Centre, whatever works for you. Caroline and the twins stay silent, while I quickly toss 7 days of food into one big pile on the floor. I don't tell them what is breakfast, lunch or dinner, and in less than 10 minutes I'm done. I stand up and study the expression on the twins' faces. They know that our friendship and the all-expenses-paid vacation at Mountain Crossings are coming to an end. Bon appetit, I say. You have food for 2 for 7 days. We have shown you how to pack the bag, set up the tent and work your stove. You're lighter, more organised and better educated. You crawled in here from Mamikalola 3 weeks ago. Now it's time to walk, boys. I'll see you when I see you. They don't venture to say when that might be, and I don't ask them what was in the barn. We have found a kind of understanding.